The power of Python is really in the packages that are available that allow you to do things that extend the base functionality of Python. We're going to be talking about some of these packages in particular for machine learning and data visualization, working with data, and some of the data science topics. So we're going to be talking about the packages that are listed here and how to install them. So let me give you an overview of what we're doing here. We have this course, Machine Learning for Engineers. So visit that course for additional information. I'll give you detailed instructions on how to install these. So let's just start with NumPy first. NumPy is a base package. It's used almost as a dependency for many other packages, and it provides some of numeric algorithms that are very efficient and that many others build upon. And same with SciPy. So those are two that you're going to want to get right away. And then there are others as well. So we move on to visualization. Then we're going to be using packages like matplotlib. And that's a base package in Python. It's been around for a long time. And in fact, Seaborn is an easier to use package than matplotlib, creating more sophisticated plots and figures, but it's built upon matplotlib as a dependency. Alright, and then we have very interactive plots that are created with Plotly, and those generate HTML and JavaScript plots that are interactive. Alright, and then we move on to some of the analysis, and you can do that with packages like Pandas, and Pandas profiling is very nice as well. Just a couple lines, it creates some very detailed reports about your data and the qualities of your data. All right, and then if we move on to some of the statistical analysis and machine learning packages, we have stats models. Stats models is very nice for statistical analysis of your data, creating summaries, linear regression, and other types of statistical descriptions of your data. Then we move on to machine learning packages, and we have Scikit-Learn, which has many different classification, regression, clustering, and dimensionality reduction packages in it. It's one that's built for really learning machine learning. Okay, so if you're just trying it out for the first time, it's a very simple interface, and to use all of the different methods, each function that you call has very similar arguments that you use for each of those. All right, one that's just a little bit more complicated. This is developed by a Facebook team and then has moved on as an open source project, is PyTorch. So this one is used, for example, by Tesla and for their autopilot. You have many other companies that use it as well for computer vision, machine learning. All right, and then you have TensorFlow. And TensorFlow originally developed in a Google lab. And TensorFlow is quite complicated to be able to learn. So there's an interface to TensorFlow, which is Keras. So this is a user-friendly interface that provides functionality, be able to call TensorFlow with just a couple lines of code. Really simplifies the description and modeling of neural networks. So TensorFlow is very good for deep learning in particular. It'll run both PyTorch and TensorFlow will run on GPUs, specialized hardware that really accelerates the machine learning capabilities. All right, and then a couple others that I'll mention as well. So we support in our group, we use the Gecko Dynamic Optimization Suite. That's for differential and algebraic equations with optimizers for mixed integer and nonlinear programming. There's also this module here called the TC Lab. And so that's another module that we're going to be installing as well. So there are others as well that you can use to interact with hardware. In particular, this is a machine learning data science course, 12 modules that you can access here. Alright, so let's go and just go ahead and install Python and then show how to install some of the packages. So what I'll do is just go ahead and open up a link, and I'll go to install Python. Okay, so if you just look for that, you can see download Python, okay, from python.org. And let's go ahead and just get the latest version. Now, one of the things that you'll have to watch out for here is that some of the packages, and particularly like TensorFlow, sometimes those are compatible with the prior version, so 3.87. So sometimes if you want to use packages like TensorFlow, just go back a version, because the current version, 3.9.1, is not compatible with packages like TensorFlow. We'll go ahead and show that here. I'm going to go ahead and install this one, and there are installers for macOS, also for Linux and Windows. Okay, so I'm going to customize the installation. This is a very long directory name, and sometimes I want to get into the Python folders and be able to customize those. So if you customize installation, then you can select the path where you want it to install. Alright, so I'm just going to install it. You can install it at other places as well. You could do, for example, in your user directory, or if you have administrative rights on your computer, you could put it on your root of the drive. Alright, and then you want to select add Python to environment variables as well. This will make it so when you open up a command window, you automatically have access to pip and some of the other Python executables that you want to run from the command line. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and install this, and just go ahead and click yes, do all the other default options here besides that customize installation, and it will go ahead and install it for you, and you can close this web page as it's installing. Okay, so once it's finished, we're going to check some things, in particular environment variables, just to make sure that is set up correctly after it installs, and then we'll start installing some packages. Now there are two package managers. One is pip and the other one is conda. So if you have Anaconda, you might be able to use conda as well, but pip is specifically a package manager just for Python, whereas conda is something that's more general. Okay, so it says setup was successful. I'll go ahead and close that. The other thing I want to check is just my environment variables. So this is a good thing to do, especially if you have multiple versions of Python installed. You can check your path here under environment variables, and then check this path and click edit. Alright, so you want to make sure that you don't have any other Python packages that are in the path. In this case, I don't have my new paths that are specified, so I'm going to add those. And so I'll just add C:\Python 3.9. That would be the first one. And then I also want to add one more. And that's going to be scripts. And that's where the pip package manager executable is going to be located. Alright, so let's just go see those, just make sure they installed correctly. And so I'm going to go to, let's see, this PC, and look at the C drive. And there I can see Python 3.9. And you can see in scripts, you can see the pip package managers right here. So let's go ahead and view those as, okay, I guess this is maybe just a little bit easier way to see them. And I'll go back a directory, and there you can see everything in Python 3.9 where we installed it. Okay, so there are our packages, and we're going to go ahead and click OK, and then OK here. And then when I run the command prompt, or bring up a new terminal or shell, okay, if you're on a different platform, then if you do pip list, then it will show you all of your Python packages that you have. So right now all we have is pip and then setup tools. You'll notice that there's a warning that the new pip version is available. So let's go ahead and just upgrade that as a very first thing. Okay, so you can upgrade packages with this -- upgrade and then the package name. Okay, it's going to uninstall the old version and then install the new version. Okay, so that one is installed. Now let's go through our machine learning packages and just install those one by one just to show how this is going to happen. We're going to come to the course website. All right, and then if you just come over here on the right to install packages, then you'll see some detailed instructions about how to set up these packages. All right, so I'll go ahead and just close this, and let me just go ahead and rearrange the windows so they're just a little bit easier to see, and then we'll go ahead and install these packages. All right, so the very first one that we're going to do is just show you how to install these either from the command line like we're doing right now, or you can also install it from a script. Now the disadvantage of many don't recommend this. You can use pip_internal import pip main and then do install and then the package name. Okay, now part of the problem with that is that there's some ways that you can mess up your installation. I've never had a problem with that, but others recommend that you don't do that. Okay, so method number one is by far the best. All right, and then we already showed pip list, but there's also other commands that you can use with pip. Okay, so you can also do pip search, and let's say you have a package like pip search PySerial. Okay, so let's see. Looks like we have some failed search. Okay, but let's go ahead and pip search NumPy, for example. And it looks like we had another failure here. Okay, unmanageable load. Looks like we have PyPy's. Ooh, looks like there's a problem right now with this. I've never seen these on the search before, an error. Let's go ahead and just go forward with the installation. Okay, the very first one that we're going to do is Gecko. All right, that's a package that I maintain and develop. And you'll notice when you do install, it's going to install the latest version, and it got NumPy, for example. That was another one, and some other dependencies as well. All right, and once all of those are installed, then it will either say successful, or if it wasn't successful, give an error. All right, so it says successfully installed. Now, if you have an error here when you're installing, sometimes you don't have administrative rights, so you need to do -- user, and that will install it locally instead of to all users of Python on that computer. Now, most users, they're the only user on their computer, so you can install it for the main package. All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's go to pip install Keras. Now, this one is not very large. Okay, but it had SciPy as a dependency, and so it's going to go out and get SciPy, PyYAML, H5Py, and Keras. Now you'll notice that TensorFlow is not on there. Keras used to support other packages as well, like Thanos and others, but they've dropped those support as of version 2.4, and now TensorFlow is the only backend that works with Keras. All right, so the other one that we're going to need is TensorFlow. We'll do that one later. All right, now matplotlib is a base one that we're going to need. I'm going to pip install matplotlib. And if you want to do more of these at the same time, you can just do space. Okay, you can just do space and list your packages that you want to install. So I'm going to do the next couple of these as I talk about them. Okay, so matplotlib is a base plotting package. Okay, NumPy is the numerical Python package, and then Pandas is like a table. You can organize data tables import data, manipulate data. It's like Excel in Python, where you manage these data frames and you can manipulate them in ways similar to working with a table in Excel. But for much larger data sets and much greater functionality from the command window. All right, so there's Pandas. Now, Pandas profiling is very nice as well. If you're going to be using this in a Jupyter notebook, then I recommend installing it this way, okay? Because you're going to need the widgets extension. So let's first of all just install, we're going to pip install, let's do notebook, okay? So that's going to be the Jupyter notebook, and that's going to have a number of dependencies. I'll add that to the list here. You know, Jupyter Notebook is a very good Python tool to have. It allows you to run Python through a web interface, and there's going to be a number of dependencies there. And then what we'll do is we'll pip install Pandas profiling and enable the widgets. Now this one right here, you have to enable the widgets extension. In particular, if you want to view the Pandas profiling report as a widget, it's a little interactive piece that is produced as you run the Pandas profiling of your data. So it's a very good tool for data exploration, so we're going to enable that after we have our Python notebook installed. Okay, and then after this is done, then I can do Jupyter Notebook. Okay, and that's going to launch a Jupyter Notebook. Okay, you can see it's going to open up a new web page. I can go to desktop, create a new Python 3 notebook. Okay, and then run something in Python, and Control Enter will run that. Okay, so now what I want to do is go ahead and leave this, leave that, and I'll hit Control C to shut down the kernel. Now I want to install, okay, so I'm going to install Pandas profiling. Now I'm going to enable the widget so I can run these interactive scripts. I'm going to click the Get Code just so I can get the raw text values, and I'll copy this one first, and up here you have to paste in. Okay, so there's Pandas profiling, and as this is going, I'm going to get this code to enable the widgets. You can see there are many dependencies for each of these packages, and it manages the dependencies and the versions in particular. Now, if you have multiple versions of Python that you want to manage, then you want to maybe use a tool like PyEnv or PyEnvironment to manage your different versions. Okay, so here is an error. Okay, so this is a case where you have Python 3.9. and sometimes you don't have the compiled version, so it's going to try to compile it from source, and so you have to have these Visual Studio or other compilers there. So typically this will be resolved by going back to an earlier version like Python 3.8.6 or 3.8.7, and then it won't require you to compile it from source. Alright, but I'm going to just go ahead and enable this. Let's see if this works. So just if you are, you know what, I did that as a mark. I should have done it as a paste. Alright, I can do Control V as well. So there's no module named widgets extension, but if this were successful, then you would see that also installing successfully. Okay, so I'm just going to go on with the ones that we can do here. Let's go ahead and get Plotly. These are the interactive plots. Okay, and this creates nice HTML and JavaScript plots that are very interactive and nice for visualizing the data and be able to move things around, zoom in. Even 3D plots, you can rotate them. So they're not static plots like matplotlib or that Seaborn give you, they're very interactive. All right, and that one is going to finish. Now we're going to go on to PyTorch. Now, PyTorch enables deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing. Its development was originally led by the Facebook's AI Research Lab, or FAIR, and since then there's a whole community that's behind it. And there's many companies that use it for production code, but also for development. All right, so you can see some of these packages take a little bit of time. I'm just going to leave this running so you get an idea on how much time it typically takes. You'll see some packages like TensorFlow are going to be, several hundred megabytes large. So you'll see those download as well. And so those will take just a little bit longer. There are compiled executables, but also source code that you're downloading. It's intended to run on specialized hardware, so GPUs. So it's going to try to get the compiled version that's available for your computer. Sometimes you may even need to compile it yourself. Okay. The other thing you can do is if you don't want to wait for this to happen, you can also start another command prompt and start installing something else. I don't necessarily recommend that, especially with dependencies. If it's trying to install two different dependencies at one time, if you have two installers working, then you can potentially cause some problems for yourself. Okay, so this one's just finishing the setup. All right, and it's installing retrying. Okay, that one is somehow a dependency of Plotly. So I don't think that dependency is in PyTorch. So I'm just going to kick this one off. And it says there's an error and torch. Okay, so I need to do torch instead, not PyTorch. Okay, and here it goes. I have the installer working. So sometimes it'll give you, an error message here if you typed it in wrong, and then you can correct that and move ahead. I'll update this one as well. Okay, Scikit-Learn, sklearn, that's going to be our next one. Now this one, many type pip install sklearn. That's incorrect. It's scikit-learn. But when you import it, it will be, you can import from sklearn. Okay, so they've shortened it when you work with it in Python, but to install it, you've got to do scikit-learn. All right, let's do that one as well. Pip install scikit-learn. That one was relatively quick. You can see it checked the version of SciPy that you were above 0.19.1. All right, and it's getting some of these other packages as well. That one was relatively quick. We need SciPy. Pip install SciPy, but that one's already been installed by several packages. You can see that requirement is already satisfied. Now let's go with Seaborn. Seaborn is built on top of Matplotlib and produces very nice summary plots of your data. Okay, Seaborn is the next one. All right, that one was relatively quick. All right, let's go on to stats models now. Okay, there's stats models. That one is also very fast. Okay, it looks like this one finally finished here for Plotly. Now, one of the nice things about Plotly as well is that it has something called Plotly Express that simplifies the interface to Plotly, which is very nice for just remembering the commands, okay, and not having to look those up. All right, let's go with TensorFlow now. So this is going to be our largest install, and this one may not have a current version for 3.9.1. I think it's probably going to fail. Okay, so here's the message. Could not find a version that satisfies the requirement. TensorFlow, no matching distribution found. Okay, so this is in the case where you would have to go with 3.8.7 and then it would be compatible with TensorFlow. You can find that information by going to pypi.org. This is where the projects are hosted for pip install. If you go to TensorFlow, then you can see the latest version, and it's compatible with 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, but we don't see 3.9 yet. And so one of the reasons why that is because they're compiling it for specialized hardware, CPUs, GPUs, and TPUs for clusters of servers. So, they're working on it, but it just takes a while once a new version comes out to make sure it's tested and deployed with the latest version. Here you can see it was released, but again, they don't have 3.9 available yet. All right, and you could always try to compile it yourself from code, or you can go and get a wheel file. So the WHL file, if there's one that's compatible, you're going to see, the Python version 3.6, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8. So once they come up with a 3.9 there, then it will find a compatible one for your distribution. Okay, so you can also install it. You just pip install and then this wheel file name. You don't want to change this one because there's code in here. The sequence of digits tells if the package is compatible with your distribution. Okay, so don't change that file name if you do download it and do pip install the wheel file. All right, let's go back here now. So those are all of our packages. Okay, so I'm going to show just really quickly Anaconda prompt. So that's another one. If you have Anaconda, the Anaconda downloaded, you can get that from if you just search for Anaconda download, you can go and get that individual edition for free, or if you're a corporation, there's also some pricing available for that. You just go to download and then select your version. I typically like the 64-bit. You can see these are on 3.8. Often Anaconda is just a subversion behind all the others because they're waiting for the packages to be updated. And you can see it's about a 0.5 gigabyte large on these installers. So that, they have a lot of the packages already installed. So I'm just going to show you what that is. Okay, so from Anaconda prompt. And here we can do pip list, and it will show you all of the packages that are already in Anaconda. So then if we do pip install TensorFlow, okay, so here it is. It's 370.7 megabytes, and you can see that there is a version that's compatible. Now this was, Python 3.7. It looks like I still need to upgrade my Anaconda distribution to 3.8, but you can see that TensorFlow is now compatible with this version of Python. All right, so if you want to use many of the machine learning packages, Anaconda is a great way to start if you don't want to have to install all these packages yourself, or you want to make sure that they're going to be compatible. Okay, so there is this one as well. All right, so you could go through the same thing, and you could also use conda install package name instead. All right, so I think that's pretty close to everything I wanted to show on this. I hope you enjoyed this video. These are some of my favorite packages that I use with machine learning in Python. But if there are others that you like, go ahead and put those in the comments below. I'd love to hear about others that you use. These are ones that I use in engineering, but there are others for natural language processing, for computer vision, like OpenCV or others. So if you have one that you like, go ahead and put it in the comments below.